November 8th, 1944. The banks of the Seille River, Lorraine, France. Dawn breaks under a relentless downpour, the sky a leaden gray that merges with the swollen river below. Rain hammers the earth like artillery shells, turning the fertile fields into a vast quagmire of sucking mud that clings to boots and wheels alike. The air is thick with the chill of impending winter, carrying the metallic tang of wet steel and the distant rumble of thunder, or perhaps engines. German sentries huddled in their foxholes, water pooling around their knees, peering through the haze toward the American lines, convinced that no sane army would stir in such infernal weather. This moment, amid the sodden plains of eastern France, marked the resumption of the U.S. Third Army's offensive under Lieutenant General George S. Patton, Jr., a bold thrust that would pierce the heart of the German defenses in Lorraine. Following the rapid pursuit across France after the Normandy breakout, Patton's forces had ground to a halt in September 1944 due to crippling fuel shortages and extended supply lines stretching over 400 miles from the beaches. The Lorraine campaign, as historians would later term it, had devolved into a grueling attritional struggle against fortified positions, with the Germans regrouping behind the Moselle and Seille rivers. By early November, the Wehrmacht's Army Group G, under General Hermann Balck, had fortified a winter line along these natural barriers, bolstered by the 361st and 559th Volksgrenadier Divisions, some 15,000 men supported by a scant 20 tanks and assault guns. The objective for the Americans was clear: seize crossings over the Seille, capture key ridges like Delmy and Cooking, and drive toward the Saar River to breach the Siegfried Line, opening the path into Germany itself. Yet the weather, with rains beginning on November 5th and culminating in a 24-hour deluge on November 7th, had swollen the Seille to its highest level since 1919, flooding lowlands and rendering cross-country movement a nightmare. This was no mere inconvenience, it was a strategic equalizer, or so the Germans believed. The German soldiers, veterans of the Eastern Front and fresh recruits alike, had anticipated a respite. Dug into their earthen fortifications, they expected the Americans, whom they derided as soft and material dependent, to hunker down against the elements, waiting for clearer skies and firmer ground. Reports from German intelligence noted unusual vehicular activity in the 12th Corps sector, but the consensus was that any major assault would target the Metz-Pont-à-Mousson area to the north, not this flooded expanse. Frontline troops, shivering in their greatcoats, spoke of the winter line as a haven for regrouping until spring, their morale buoyed by the belief that the mud would immobilize the enemy's vaunted mechanized forces. Panzer crews manning their heavy Panthers and Mark IVs knew all too well how their machines, weighing up to 45 tons, sank axle deep in such terrain, their narrow tracks turning futilely against the slime. They imagined the lighter but numerous American Shermans suffering the same fate, bogged down and vulnerable to artillery and anti-tank fire. What they encountered instead was a symphony of defiance, the low, insistent growl of radial engines cutting through the rain, a sound that echoed American industrial might and the unyielding spirit of a democracy fueled by abundance. At 0600 hours on November 8th, following a massive artillery barrage of 21,933 rounds in the first 24 hours from 24 battalions, the 12th Corps, comprising the 26th, 35th, and 80th Infantry Divisions, supported by the 4th and 6th Armored Divisions, surged forward. The 26th Division's 104th and 328th Regiments stormed the Seille bridges at Moyenvich and Vix-sur-Seille, wading through knee-deep mud under withering machine gun fire, capturing over 1,000 dazed German prisoners by day's end. To the south, the 35th Division seized La Neuville and Malicourt, their infantry slogging through quagmires where tanks could scarcely follow. The 80th Division established a bridgehead near Agincourt, battling hand-to-hand in the muck to take Delmy Ridge by November 9th, netting another 1,000 captives. The mud was merciless, miring tanks and trucks off the narrow roads, forcing engineers to winch vehicles free or lay corduroy paths of logs under constant shelling. Lightweight M5 Stuarts of the 6th Armored floundered in the slime, their poor flotation turning advances into zigzagging ordeals. Yet the Shermans pressed on, their wider tracks and lower ground pressure averaging 13 pounds per square inch compared to the Panthers' 15, allowing them to traverse terrain deemed impossible. On November 9th, Combat Command A of the 4th Armored crossed the Seille amid the roar of those radial engines, reaching Himpont and Rodolphe by November 11th, where they ambushed German reinforcements, destroying 14 anti-tank guns despite losing 200 men in a fierce counterattack. Combat Command B advanced to Fontigny, its tanks emerging from the fog like ghosts, their engines growl, heralding a barrage that shattered enemy positions. Documented German interrogations revealed the shock. Prisoners from the 559th Volksgrenadier Division described being overwhelmed by the unexpected assault, their officers admitting no preparations for an attack in such conditions. One captured lieutenant from the 11th Panzer Division, committed on November 10th, recounted in a post-war memoir how the endless drone of American engines through the mud signaled not just mobility, but an inexhaustible supply chain that their own forces lacked, trucks laden with fuel and ammunition rolling where German horses foundered. This relentless advance transformed perceptions on both sides. For the Germans, the illusion of a secure winter stasis shattered. Balk's frantic orders for counterattacks, including the 21st Panzer Division's failed assault on November 13th that destroyed 13 American vehicles but cost them dearly in a snowstorm, underscored a dawning realization of American resilience. No longer were the Yanks seen as fair-weather fighters reliant on air superiority, grounded by the weather, but as dogged warriors backed by a democratic engine of production that churned out over 49,000 Shermans by war's end, their radial engines an audible testament to abundance. Ideology shifted subtly in the ranks. Captured documents from the 13th SS Corps noted morale erosion, with soldiers questioning the Führer's promises as they witnessed American forces, undeterred by mud, capture 53 artillery pieces and over 3,000 prisoners by November 15th. For the Americans, the ordeal forged a hardened ideology of perseverance, with Trenchfoot claiming over 500 in the 26th Division alone, yet their advance to Morhange and Falcomont by November 17th proved that freedom's arsenal could conquer even nature's barriers. In the Ko-King Woods, where the 26th Division battled for Hill 310 from November 9th to 11th, costing 478 casualties, the growl of those radial engines reverberated as tanks pivoted onto the ridge, outflanking entrenched Germans from the 1119th Regiment. Prisoners, hands raised in the pouring rain, marveled at the machines that had traversed the impassable, their engines' roar drowning out the despair of defeat. By November 16th, as the 80th Division enveloped Falcomont, German resistance crumbled into disorganized pockets, with over 1,200 more taken and an estimated 2,000 enemy dead, including 3 battalion commanders. As the mud dried into frozen ruts by mid-December, the Lorraine offensive's legacy endured, a poetic testament to the triumph of abundance over scarcity, democracy over tyranny. In that growl of radial engines, slicing through the quagmire where others faltered, lay a larger truth. Freedom's machinery, born of a nation's collective will and ingenuity, could not be mired by storm or foe. It rolled onward, inexorable, echoing the promise that in the forge of adversity, true liberty emerges not just victorious, but transformative, reminding the world that even in the depths of winter's grasp, the sound of progress endures.